Welcome back. Today we will learn about the devastating consequences of Sophia's desperate maternal instincts and the elaborate web of deception she's woven around baby Tesoro that threatens to unravel the very fabric of Salem's interconnected families. The crushing weight of maternal regret, the torment eating away at Sophia's soul, grows more unbearable with each passing day as she witnesses the tender care that Javi and Leo provide for her precious son, whom she's taken to calling baby Tesoro in her most private moments. This endearing nickname, meaning treasure in Spanish, reflects not only the child's immeasurable value to her but also hints at the cultural richness that Javi brings to the caregiving dynamic. Sophia's decision to relinquish her parental rights now feels like the most catastrophic mistake of her young life, a choice made in haste during a moment of overwhelming panic and uncertainty. Every stolen glance at her son through windows, every overheard conversation about his feeding schedule or developmental milestones, serves as a dagger to her already wounded heart. The sight of Leo's gentle handling during diaper changes and Javi's melodic Spanish lullabies creates a bittersweet tableau that simultaneously fills her with joy for her child's well-being and devastating sorrow for her own loss. She finds herself memorizing these precious moments from afar, collecting them like forbidden photographs in the album of her mind. The young mother's regret has manifested physically as well, with sleepless nights leaving dark circles under her eyes and a nervous appetite that has friends and family beginning to notice her dramatic weight loss. Her grades at Salem University have plummeted as concentration becomes impossible when her thoughts constantly drift to the little boy who should be in her arms. The phantom sensation of holding him haunts her daily routine, making simple tasks like studying or working feel monumentally difficult. The intricate web of medical deception. Sophia's commitment to maintaining her fictional narrative about giving birth has required an increasingly sophisticated network of lies and forged documentation. The supposed clinic where she allegedly delivered baby Tesoro has become a central pillar in her elaborate deception, complete with fabricated medical records that detail everything from her prenatal care to the specifics of her labor and delivery experience. These documents, crafted with meticulous attention to detail, include falsified ultrasound images, blood work results, and even a fabricated birth certificate that bears the clinic's official-looking seal. Melinda's involvement in this medical charade cannot be understated, as her legal expertise and connections within Salem's healthcare system have proven invaluable in legitimizing Sophia's claims. The attorney's willingness to risk her professional reputation and potentially face serious legal consequences demonstrates the depth of her commitment to helping Sophia, though her motivations remain somewhat murky. Whether driven by genuine maternal sympathy, professional obligation, or perhaps her own complicated relationship with truth and justice, Melinda has become an indispensable co-conspirator in this increasingly dangerous game. The fake medical records extend beyond simple birth documentation to include detailed postpartum care instructions, breast pumping schedules, and even fabricated follow-up appointments that Sophia claims to attend religiously. She has studied these documents so thoroughly that she can recite specific details about her supposed recovery process, complete with invented complications that explain any inconsistencies in her story. This level of preparation has allowed her to maintain her deception even under the scrutiny of well-meaning friends and family members who inquire about her maternal experience. The psychological toll of maintaining such an elaborate medical fiction weighs heavily on Sophia's conscience, particularly when she observes other new mothers in Salem sharing genuine experiences that mirror her fabricated ones. Each lie told with convincing sincerity chips away at her sense of self, transforming her from an honest young woman into someone she barely recognizes. The calculated kidnapping conspiracy. The genesis of Sophia's kidnapping plot emerged during one particularly painful evening when she watched through the window as Leo and Javi established their nightly routine with baby Tesoro. The sight of her son being bathed, fed, and gently rocked to sleep by two men who clearly adored him sparked a dangerous combination of maternal desperation and strategic thinking that would culminate in her most reckless decision yet. Her surveillance of Leo and Javi's daily patterns revealed several potential vulnerabilities in their childcare routine. She discovered that every Tuesday afternoon, Leo had a standing appointment at the Salem hospital for his ongoing therapy sessions, leaving Javi alone with the baby for approximately 2 hours. During this window, Javi typically took advantage of baby Tesoro's afternoon nap to catch up on household chores, often working in the garden or basement where he might not immediately notice unusual sounds or movements. The financial aspect of her escape plan required significant sacrifice, as Sophia made the heart-wrenching decision to liquidate her entire college fund, money that represented years of her family's savings and her own part-time work earnings. This nest egg, originally intended to secure her educational future and professional aspirations, became the fuel for a desperate maternal fantasy that promised only temporary relief from her emotional anguish. The irony of using funds meant to build her future to potentially destroy it was not lost on her, but desperation had clouded her normally sound judgment. Her choice of accommodation reflected both her need for anonymity and her limited resources. The Crossroads Motel, a somewhat seedy establishment on the outskirts of Salem, offered the perfect combination of cash-only transactions and minimal questions from desk clerks accustomed to guests who preferred privacy. Using the pseudonym Maria Santos, she secured a modest room equipped with basic amenities that would allow her to care for an infant during what she optimistically projected as a 3-month separation from Salem. The emotional landscape of her grand designed Sophia's master plan, born from a volatile mixture of maternal longing and youthful naivety, centered on the romantic notion that a few months of bonding with baby Tesoro would somehow provide the emotional foundation necessary to rebuild her fractured relationship with Tate. In her increasingly desperate mindset, she convinced herself that returning to Salem as an established mother would demonstrate her maturity and commitment to family life, qualities she believed would make her irresistible to the young man who had captured her heart. The timeline she envisioned played out like a fairy tale in her imagination. 3 months of uninterrupted mother-child bonding in a series of small towns across the Midwest, gradually making their way back toward Salem as baby Tesoro grew stronger and more attached to her. She pictured herself learning the rhythms of motherhood away from the judgmental eyes of Salem's residents, developing the confidence and skills that would make her return triumphant rather than shameful. Her fantasy included detailed scenarios of her eventual homecoming, complete with imagined conversations where she would explain her temporary absence as a necessary period of healing and growth. She envisioned Tate's amazed reaction upon seeing her transformed into a devoted mother, his previous reservations about their relationship dissolving in the face of her obvious dedication to their child. These romantic daydreams sustained her through the difficult logistics of planning what was essentially a kidnapping, allowing her to frame her criminal intentions as acts of maternal love. The practical realities of caring for an infant while living in hiding rarely intruded on these optimistic projections. Sophia's limited experience with newborn care, combined with her isolation from medical professionals and support systems, created a potentially dangerous situation that she was ill-equipped to handle. Her understanding of infant needs came primarily from online research and casual observations of other mothers, hardly sufficient preparation for the round-the-clock demands of solo parenting. The ripple effects through Salem's community. The impending execution of Sophia's plan threatens to devastate multiple families throughout Salem, creating a web of consequences that extends far beyond her personal situation. Leo and Javi, who have poured their hearts into caring for baby Tesoro, face the unimaginable trauma of losing the child they've come to consider their own son. Their relationship, still relatively new and built on the foundation of shared parenting responsibilities, would likely struggle to survive such a devastating loss. Tate's position in this unfolding drama remains precarious, as his continued ignorance of his paternal status makes him an unwitting participant in Sophia's elaborate scheme. His eventual discovery of the truth promises to shatter his trust not only in Sophia but potentially in his own judgment about the people closest to him. The revelation that the woman he once cared for has been living a complete fabrication while involving him in her delusional future plans would likely traumatize him beyond his capacity to forgive. The legal ramifications of Sophia's actions extend beyond simple kidnapping charges to include fraud, forgery, and potentially child endangerment if her inexperience leads to any harm befalling baby Tesoro. Melinda's professional involvement in creating false documentation could result in disbarment proceedings and criminal charges that would end her legal career and destroy her reputation within Salem's legal community. The broader Salem community, already accustomed to dramatic revelations and family secrets, would find itself grappling with questions about how such an elaborate deception could unfold undetected. Friends, neighbors, and family members would be forced to examine their own roles in enabling Sophia's lies through their willingness to accept her story without deeper investigation. The inevitable collision of reality and fantasy as Sophia's carefully constructed timeline approaches its moment of truth, the fundamental flaws in her reasoning become increasingly apparent to everyone except herself. Her romanticized vision of maternal bliss conflicts sharply with the practical realities of infant care, financial limitations, and the psychological pressure of living as a fugitive. The college fund that seemed substantial in her initial planning would quickly evaporate under the strain of hotel costs, infant supplies, and the constant need to remain mobile to avoid detection. The emotional toll of her deception has already begun to manifest in ways that threaten to expose her before she can execute her plan. Her increasingly erratic behavior, dramatic mood swings, and obvious distress when observing baby Tesoro have not gone unnoticed by Salem's perceptive residents. Several close friends have expressed concern about her mental state, creating additional pressure to accelerate her timeline before someone intervenes. The tragic irony of Sophia's situation lies in her belief that kidnapping her own biological child represents an act of maternal love rather than a crime that could permanently separate her from the son she desperately wants to raise. Her inability to distinguish between her emotional needs and baby Tesoro's best interests has created a collision course with devastating consequences for everyone involved in this heartbreaking saga. The days ahead promise revelations that will forever alter the landscape of relationships in Salem, as Sophia's desperate gamble threatens to destroy the very future she's trying so desperately to create.